You know, when you look at a giant tree, you're really just seeing the surface. But inside, it's a whole different story. We're talking about a hidden world, a network of, well, superhighways, really, that are pulling off these incredible feats of engineering every single second. So let's dive in and uncover the secrets of how plants really work.
All right, to get us started, I've got a big question for you. And I mean that literally. We see all these massive trees, right? But is there a limit? Is there some kind of physical cap on how tall a tree can grow? Or could one, with enough time, just keep reaching for the sky forever?
Well, it turns out there is a limit. But first, meet the current champion on Earth. It's a coastal redwood out in California, and it stands at a staggering 116 meters tall. To put that in perspective, that's taller than a 30-story building. It's just massive. But as tall as that is, scientists think it's not quite at the absolute maximum.
Yep, scientists have actually run the numbers, and they've calculated a kind of a hard ceiling for tree height. And that number is right around 130 meters. They think if a tree got any taller, the whole system would just fail. But here's the crazy part. The reason has nothing to do with the strength of the wood. Nope, it's something way more delicate. It's all about the tree's internal plumbing. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Okay, let's get into it. First up, we're going to look at the pipes that carry the water. This is the absolute basic infrastructure. Without it, nothing else in the plant could possibly work.
So, this first superhighway is called the xylem. The easiest way to think about it is like the plant's water mains. Its whole job is to transport water and minerals from way down in the roots all the way up to the tippy-top leaves. And get this, the wood that makes up a tree trunk, yeah, that's pretty much all xylem.
And what's just so cool is how perfectly the xylem is built for this job. See, it's not one single long tube. It's actually a series of dead, hollow cells all joined together, end to end, and they form this long, continuous microscopic pipe. The walls are reinforced with this super tough substance called lignin, which not only makes the tubes incredibly strong, but also helps support the whole plant. It's brilliant. Okay, so we've got the pipes, but that leads to the next big question, right? How on earth does a plant get water to defy gravity and travel, 100 meters straight up into the air with no heart, no pump, nothing? The answer is just a fantastic piece of passive engineering. The engine that drives this whole thing is a process called transpiration. And really, it's a fancy word for something simple: water evaporating from the leaves. Now here's the magic. As each tiny water molecule evaporates and leaves the leaf, it actually pulls on the molecule right behind it. And that one pulls on the one behind it, and so on, creating this incredible chain reaction that goes all the way down to the roots. So let's walk through this journey. First, water gets absorbed into the roots from the soil. Simple enough. Then it gets drawn up into those xylem tubes, which you can honestly think of as a giant bundle of super thin straws. Then at the top, water evaporates from the leaves. And that evaporation creates a suction force. It's exactly like when you suck on a straw. And that force is strong enough to pull the entire column of water right up the tree.
And boom, that right there is the answer to our big question from the beginning. You've got this constant tug of war happening. The upward pull from transpiration is fighting against the downward pull of gravity on that long, heavy column of water. And according to the calculations, at about 130 meters, gravity finally wins. The tension just becomes too much, the water column would literally snap, and the leaves at the top would be left high and dry.
So, there you have it. That's how plants solved the massive problem of getting water. But that's only half the story. They also need a way to move food, energy, around. And for that, they have a second and equally incredible superhighway.
This second highway is called the phloem, and it's a completely different beast from the xylem. While xylem is basically a one-way street, moving water up, and it's made of dead cells, the phloem is a two-way street. It moves sugars around, and it's made of living cells. This means it can send food both up and down the plant, directing it wherever it's needed most.
The official name for this process of moving sugars is translocation, and it's really all about a simple concept: moving energy from a source to a sink. A source is just any part of the plant that's making or releasing sugar, and a sink is any part that needs to use or store that sugar to grow.
Think about a potato plant in the middle of summer. It's the perfect example. The leaves are up top, soaking up the sun, photosynthesizing like crazy, and making tons of sugar. So the leaves are the source. All that sugar then travels down the phloem to be stored in the potatoes, the tubers, growing underground. The tubers are the sink.
Okay, but now, fast forward to the spring. The leaves from last year are gone, and the plant needs energy to grow new ones. So what happens? The roles completely reverse. The potato tubers, which were the sink, now convert their stored starch back into sugar. They become the new source. They send all that energy shooting upwards through the phloem to the new little shoots, which are now the sink. It's just an incredibly smart and flexible system.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, from that insane battle against gravity happening in the xylem to this super dynamic two-way delivery network of the phloem, you realize plants aren't just sitting there. They are anything but passive.
They're more like silent engineers, constantly managing these unbelievable feats of physics and biology. This whole hidden system just works flawlessly, day in and day out. It's what allows a tiny little seed to become a towering giant, all powered by sunlight and a design that is, frankly, brilliant.
And that brings me to one last thought I want to leave you with. We figured out that the 130-meter limit here is all because of Earth's gravity. So, what if? What kind of absolutely fantastical forests could exist on a planet with less gravity, a gentler pole? What could a tree even look like there? It's a pretty wild question, and it takes everything we've just talked about to a whole other world.